Human rights are inalienable. That is, they are part of the human being. As long as you have life, you have these rights attached to you. We've talked about rights to freedom of speech. We also have freedom of movement, freedom of association, and the like. These are human rights, and they are fundamental to every human being. All over the world, these rights are protected, they are safeguarded. I am Itohan Olomu-Agbodo, and this is the Courthouse.
Why wait when you can do it instantly? Yes, to be a 1-minute partner with Nova Plus by giving through KingsPay. Please follow these simple steps. Step 1. Download KingsChat app from Google Play Store and Apple Store. Step 2. Download KingsPay app from Google Play Store and Apple Store. Step 3. Launch KingsPay app on your mobile phone. Step 4. Type in the amount you wish to send. Step 5. Enter the 5-digit code, which is LWPLS, and in a second, your setup is done. And guess what? You can also keep track of your givings by viewing your receipt at any time. I told you, instantly. And don't forget, your seed is changing lives all around the world. God bless you.
If we have to give you anything, then we have to give you everything. Love Plus Channel 465 is simply the best. Because we have something for every member of the family. So dads, keep the team spirit going on with our intriguing sport highlights and reviews. And moms, cooking is never boring when you have our intriguing drama series. And for all your lovely kids, just sit and enjoy. This, and oh this. I told you, we have something for everyone. Because we are indeed all about you. So keep it locked on Love Plus Channel 465 on Star Times.
You're welcome back. This is the Courthouse, and this week we are talking about human rights and looking specifically at the right to protest, freedom of expression, freedom of association. The right to protest is one of the rights of every human being all over the world. And this week I'm joined by two titans. To my immediate left, I have Moses Bami Shaye. You're welcome to the Courthouse.
Thank you for having me.
And I have David Amakiri.
Thank you for having me. So, good to be here.
You're welcome, gentlemen, to the Courthouse. These are legal practitioners of no mean repute, and I know you're going to do justice to this topic, the right to protest. So, Barrister Moses, I want to start with you. The right to protest. How do you view that right?
This is a right also enshrined in the Constitution. It's a right that gives you freedom of association, and alongside with that, you have a right to express yourself in a way and manner that is not against the law. Okay. Now, there has been a lot being said about the freedom to protest. The police will come up with saying that you need a police report, that you need to write a letter that you want to hold an association, that you want to hold a gathering before, and they will look into the purpose of why you want to hold such gathering, and if it's within the ambit of the law, you will then be allowed to hold such gathering. I think it's a total fallacy and a misuse of power, because the law enshrines that you have the right to associate and to hold your opinion. Now, these rights are guaranteed in the Constitution, so it's a constitutional provision. And anything that is contrary to the provision of the Constitution is null and void to the extent of its inconsistency. Now, the Supreme Court has gone further to even pronounce on this, that you need no police permit for you to hold your assembly. Because this association, this gathering, this rally, they are hereby protected by the Constitution. You have your right to hold them. What the police need to do is to protect you from people that may hold a contrary opinion and contrary view to whatever you want to do, from having any fracas, or from your right being infringed upon by people that will be against your opinion. But it is wrong for anybody. Now, there is this law now that says that you cannot speak against gay or say anything against gay. I think it's gagging the mouth of the people. They should have their right to express themselves and to hold association to say, we are not in support of gay. If you are in support of gay, you have your right to hold your own meeting. But for you to now come out with a law to say people should not gather and protest or hold a view, a rally, saying they are anti-gay, I think it's stopping, it's gagging the people. You are deliberately infringing on their right. And one thing is this, when you consistently hold such view and you have your way, you are setting a precedent. And when this precedent comes to boomerang on you, you will not have any right for a recourse. So people who are saying, people who wants to demonstrate, people who wants to protest, they don't have that right, they should have a rethink. Because it will come to a point in time, their own right will be infringed upon, they will want to protest, and what they've done to prevent people will stand to their face and will prevent them. And then they cannot start to cry foul.
Very interesting. So, David Amakiri, what do you have to say about this, the right to protest, freedom of association and the like?
Well, thank you. What I'll say is just drawing from what he has said. You know, to protest, one, you have to assemble. So the law now says you can assemble with whoever you want to assemble with. Then to protest, you have to speak, because you are holding a view that you want to express in an open medium. So the law says you have the right to your speech. You can say whatever you want to say, as long as what you are saying is not infringing on another person's rights. You also have the right to propagate your views. So if you take these three rights together, you see that what it gives you is a radical right as a group of people to come and express a view that is contrary to the view of perhaps a government or a sect. So that's where protest is situated under Nigerian law. But the thing is, most times people protest against negative government policies. So then the state's interests collide with the interests of the individuals. So at that point, the state begins to ask itself, what do we do? Do we uphold the law and permit a dissent, or do we allow a dissent that may truncate our own activities? So that's why you find out that when there's a protest, elements who you are not sure under whose authority they are acting come against the protest. And we have seen that severally in this country. We have seen it in other parts of Africa. We have even seen it in the world. And it's interesting because this is a time all around the world when the issue of protest is a big deal. For example, even in the US now, the White House is currently under a siege in quotes because of what they call the Kremlin Annex protest. So all around the world, the law everywhere recognizes these rights and accords the people protection.
Okay. So now, most of the time when people actually protest, these individuals actually protest against government policies. Yes. Probably provision of lack of some basic amenities, or one policy, like you said, or the other. So don't they have a right to protest against government policies? So why should the government not provide protection in situations like that? Instead, you see the police, for instance, going to gag them, going to use water cannons, different things to try and disperse such crowds.
People have the right to protest against government policy. Remember, at a point in time, everybody in government was a citizen, was at a certain point in time not in government. So government is not about an individual. Government is not about expressing individual views. It's about advancing what the people want. So when you have a government in place, where you have sets of policies in place, where you have sets of laws, actions in place that are not in line with people, in line with the social contract, people have a right to protest. And I wonder what a democracy really will be if there are no opposing voices, if there are no voices that can protest, that can say, no, we don't want this, no, this is absolutely wrong. So, but the problem is always the likelihood of a breakdown of law and order. Okay? So that's where there's some kind of justification for state intervention. Because when you have a group of people acting, expressing their opinions in their own way, there's a likelihood that a minority out of that group want to take the law out of their hand. So that is where police action is situated.
Okay, state intervention, as you mentioned.
Yes.
But we have a report on the right to protest, the right to assemble freely, and legal nuggets as well. We'll be right back.
The right to protest is a perceived human right arising out of a number of recognized human rights. While no human rights instruments or national constitution grants the absolute right to protest, such a right to protest may be a manifestation of the rights to freedom of assembly, the right to freedom of association, and the right to freedom of speech. Many international treaties contain clear enunciations of these rights. Such agreements include the 1950 European Convention on Human Rights, especially Articles 9 to 11, and the 1966 International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, especially Articles 18 to 22. However, in these and other agreements, the rights of freedom of assembly, freedom of association, and freedom of speech are subject to certain limitations. For example, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights contains prohibitions on propaganda of war and advocacy of national, racial, or religious hatred, and it allows the restriction of the freedom to assembly if it is necessary in a democratic society in the interests of national security or public safety. Protesting, however, is not necessarily violent or a threat to the interests of national security or public safety, nor is it necessarily civil disobedience, because most protests do not involve violating the laws of the state. Protests, even campaigns of non-violent resistance or civil resistance, can often have the character, in addition to using non-violent methods, of positively supporting a democratic and constitutional order. This can happen, for example, when such resistance arises in response to a military coup d'etat, or in the somewhat similar case of a refusal of the state leadership to surrender office following defeat in an election. Since Nigeria is under a democratic dispensation, it is germane to join issues with an elected regime by way of protests. The Honorable Justice Adekeye, JSC, retired, delivered the historic judgment of the Court of Appeal, which confirmed the illegality of police permits.
You're welcome back, and this is the courthouse. I still have Moses Bamishaye and David Amakri at the studio with me, and we're talking about the right to protest, the fact that some other people may want to express contrary views to those protesting, so that's probably why the state needs to intervene in terms of the police and all that. So what do you have to say about that?
I think it is not when when the protest is against the government alone that it becomes an issue. It becomes an issue when we have the minority group versus the majority, or the discriminated upon and those people discriminating. Now, the government will say, okay, because they have the large number of the vote from a particular set of people and they want to protect the interest of those people, then the majority will be what they will want to support. But the minority should have their say.
Okay.
and in a way and manner to which they feel they can express and they should express themselves in the ambit of the law, not breaking the law.
Not breaking the law. Barrister David, you were saying something about people having safeguards. You were talking about safeguards in protesting, that the state intervenes probably when some hoodlums and the rest are trying to take advantage of the gathering.
Yes.
So is it the same thing we're saying?
Yes.
No, the minority that I'm talking of is when the interest of the minority is not being protected and these people are now protesting.
Okay.
They have their own right to protest. Now, the state, the interest may not be, the clash may not be against the government, but because it is the majority, and because the politicians and the government takes their vote from those sets of people, there's a likelihood for the government to want to protect these sets of people from anything that may be hazardous to them or that will go against them by the minority.
Okay.
Thereby preventing the minority from expressing
their
own side of the, which is also wrong.
So do you think so? Is that your opinion too?
I think so, but the thing is, I think what he's alluding to is where you have different sets of views. Though in a
Like
protest, you can have those for and those against.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have those kind of views. And then we have seen that sometimes state actors tend to protect those whose views are pro-establishment against those whose views are not pro-establishment. I mean, that is where it's wrong, because the police code of conduct says that where there are political differences, the police is meant to be neutral. In issues of religious beliefs, the police is meant to be neutral. So in that kind of a case, the expectation for state actors will be to maintain a line, where an imaginary line, where one group does not overpower the others. I think we have seen this. There was a time not too long ago when there was a protest against the government. Then there was a group that came for the government, and you can imagine.
But both groups should actually be able to protest side by side, like you said. They should be able to protest. I'm for the government. I'm pro government A, and this other one is saying no. I'm anti-government B. So those people should be able to protest with adequate protection from the police. I think that's the common denominator.
In fact, there could even be a synergy between those two groups. Knowing fully well that this is a kind of a debate, an idea, a philosophy, a thinking. The need for you to express yourself becomes very, very important. So you hear their own side of the view. In fact, taking time to listen to the opponent's side is part of the growth in democracy. You will be able to fortify your own argument, and you'll be able to see reason to what others are saying that you can't see. So in fact, in such an instance, I would have suggested that instead of us having a free-for-all fight and a fracas, let's have a debate, the for and the against, and let everybody talk in a way and manner in which, at the end of the day, we will be able to have some converts from this side joining us and say, okay, we now see reason to why you hold this view, and we're in support of it. And in that way, we will grow in our democracy. They call it a nascent democracy, but the refusal to allow this nascent democracy to thrive. And one of the key things that will make it to thrive is people having contrary view and opinion and expressing it, marshalling their point in such a way that you must listen.
So do you think that the right to protest will actually see better days or encouragement in this dispensation?
I don't know. I think it's going to be difficult in a situation where government is losing popularity. So the right to protest will continually be under attack. But again, I'm trying to situate some of the rationale for state actions in a protest. Like you said, there are situations where there are opposing camps. I think it is in that kind of a situation that you kind of see the sense that the Public Order Act is trying to bring by saying you should seek a permit before you protest. Let me just say this, that the Public Order Act first started from the colonial times, where you had the Public Order Ordinance. The purpose to the outside was good, but the intention was not good, because the intention was to prevent protest against the colonialists.
Yes.
Okay, because the colonialists were going to come up with so many things, for example, things like tax and all that. So the public order ordinance was brought in to prevent protest against the colonialists. So the public order ordinance was what moved into the Public Order Act that now requires permission of the state government before you protest. So in cases where, I don't know, but I think that there's some sense in it, even if we kind of bastardize it.
That sense in it, don't you think that sense will actually gag my right to express myself?
It obviously would.
Yes,
that
because
is
if
where,
I have to go and seek permission before I can now marshal out my arguments and maybe take placards, because the primary thing here is that my protest must be peaceful. If I'm moving with a group of 20, a group of 50 people, maybe on a straight line along the road, carrying placards, I don't have any weapon, I don't have any, I'm not saying any negative things, I'm just moving peacefully. I don't think I should go and seek.
In the case of Nwanko versus state,
the states, yes,
versus the state, 1983, where Nwanko had a publication against the government of Olomu-Agbodo, then the governor of Anambra State, publishing about the corrupt way and manner Olomu-Agbodo was spending money. Olomu-Agbodo went to court suing the publication and the publisher for sedition. The court, him losing, went to Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal, the judge heard inter alia that every colonial law that is anti-democracy, anti-growth, anti-development should be jettisoned. And so the same applies to this Public Order Act and everything. Because the intentions are not noble. And so and one thing we've done in this side of the this side of the divide is that we took the line, the bait, the hook, and the sinker together. Not even dissevering or dissecting or taking a separate thing, sieving out the substance from, the shaft from the substance. We just took everything in, we copied and pasted and brought it down as our law. Things like wandering. Could you imagine those things still subsisting? Which ought not to be. So I am saying I hold this view, and this is my personal opinion and view.
Okay.
I think I hold this view that it will gag the people. Let there be a freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom to protest. Now you need not take any permit from any police. There is a decided case towards that fact now. There is a Supreme Court judgment to that you don't even need a police permit.
Need a police permit. But he was just trying to make sense of the need.
The need for it. No, there's no need for it. There's no need for it because the moment and now the police can now say there was a rally that was to hold at a particular time, and this group of people wrote the Nigerian police informing them of their upcoming protests and all the like, and that needing police support. Protection. And police came and said, no, that they cannot protest on that day. And I said, it is wrong. You can't stop me from my lawful protest.
That's what I was going to say, that if I pre-inform the police, probably I would never have that.
You would never have that opportunity.
But what do you think?
I think that, I still think there's some sense in it, but my problem is that the way it is interpreted and the way state actors used it has been abused. Because the intention of the law is for you to notify the authorities so that they'll be prepared in case of a breakdown of law and order. But I agree with you. What we see in practice is that because the protesters will express a right that is contrary to mine or my actions, then I will not give them any permit and use that as an opportunity to tie them down.
In fact, I think surprise should be the rule of the game. The Ojota riot was a huge success. If the government had known that there was going to be a riot of that nature, do you think they would have allowed it? Do you think they would have been able to hold such a riot? So obviously no.
Such a protest, right?
But because it came suddenly, and look at how people were able to gather themselves within a while, and it became a national thing. The government knew from that point that they were doing something wrong. Okay. The message was clear. It was understood. It was because it was sudden, it was spontaneous, and it gathered momentum all of a sudden.
Gentlemen, it's time to go. Interesting. We have the bar book segment, and I know both of you know we have the bar book segment. We share Latin maxims, legal maxims, and their meanings. So, who wants to go first?
I wish I knew what protest is in Latin.
In Latin.
I think I learned one from my producer, and I would like to use that. Something like what now? Can you remind me?
Liquously.
Liquously, meaning everything that is lawful is lawful.
In fact, that is very interesting. So you get to find out more Latin maxims on our bar book segment. Stay with us. That was actually very funny, but Moses, you know that there's nothing like liquously. But we need to go. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making the show very lively and interesting today. We'd like to see you some other time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So that is the much we can take this week on the Courthouse, and I hope you learned a lot from our discourse today. If you have comments for us, we'd like you to log on to our website on www.loverplus.org or download our app Lover Plus on any of the mobile app stores. We also have numbers showing on your screen now. Send your messages, send your comments to those numbers. I am Itohan Olomu-Agbodo, and I say, don't just get mad, go get a lawyer. Bye for now.